Listen to that sound. That's ice hitting the side of a $12 glass of whiskey in a dimly lit, overpriced hotel ballroom. It's the sound of a 10-year college reunion. You look around the room. You see the tailored suits. You see the designer dresses. You see a room full of 35-year-olds flashing strained, practiced smiles, desperately trying to project the illusion that they have it all figured out. They hand you a heavy stock business card with a fancy title. They casually drop the make of their new European SUV into the conversation. But watch closely. Watch what happens when the bartender hands them the tab. There's a microsecond of hesitation, a subtle, involuntary tightening of the jaw, because right at that exact moment their phone vibrates in their tailored pocket with an automated text message. Warning, your credit card utilization has exceeded 80%. Society doesn't measure adulthood by what you keep. It measures your maturity by what you owe. The heavier the chains of your liabilities, the more successful you appear to the herd. We are utterly obsessed with timelines. We are programmed from the moment we can walk to believe in a rigid, mandatory financial chronology. By 25, you should have the degree and the corporate badge. By 30, you need the expensive diamond, the catered wedding, and the mortgage on a suburban house. By 35, you need the senior promotion, the curated luxury vacation photos, and the second vehicle. This is the age bracket deception. It's a perfectly engineered social construct designed to keep you chronically stressed, permanently panicked, and most importantly, endlessly spending. You look at your coworker in the glass office down the hall, the guy who just turned 32. He just closed on a 4-bedroom house and takes an annual trip to the Amalfi Coast. You look at your own savings account. You look at your birth certificate, and a cold, suffocating panic sets in. You ask yourself the question that keeps millions of adults staring blankly at the ceiling at 3 a.m. Where do I actually stand financially for my age? Am I falling behind? Am I a failure? Here is the brutal, unfiltered reality that the financial industry desperately wants to hide from you. The guy down the hall isn't wealthy. He's massively leveraged. He is a fragile financial house of cards, disguised in a cashmere sweater. The system feeds on your age-induced anxiety. The banks know exactly when you hit 30. They know the social pressure to stop living like a college student becomes physically painful. So they hand you a quick fix wrapped in a 30-year compound interest rate. You aren't taking on debt to build a foundation. You are taking on debt to purchase a societal identity. You are paying a massive premium just to conform to a timeline created by the very institutions that profit off your insecurity. You think the maze is just about working 40 hours a week under fluorescent lights. It isn't. The real trap is the psychological treadmill of these arbitrary age milestones. It's the invisible clock ticking in your head, constantly whispering that if you don't finance a lifestyle you can't afford by the time you blow out 35 candles, you are irrelevant. They handed you a script, and like an obedient actor, you memorized your lines, you hit your marks, and you financed all your expensive props. But the truly terrifying part isn't that you fell for the timeline. The terrifying part is what's actually hiding beneath the surface of all these so-called successful adults. When you rip away the shiny paint, the job titles, and the filters, what you find isn't a generation of wealth. What you find is a generation holding its breath underwater. And once you understand the psychology keeping them submerged, you get the promotion. The email goes out to the department. Congratulations on the new title and the 30% bump in your base salary. You are officially making 6 figures. You have crossed the magical threshold that society promised would finally make you feel secure. You take your partner out to an expensive celebratory dinner. You feel, for exactly one fleeting weekend, like you have won the game. But then Monday morning rolls around, and the psychological trap springs shut. This is the salary mirage. It is the most dangerous cognitive dissonance in the modern financial system. We have been brainwashed to confuse income with wealth. We treat a high salary as a permanent shield, completely ignoring the fact that a paycheck is nothing more than temporary cash flow, dependent on your continued obedience to an employer. When you hit your late 20s and early 30s, a terrifying phenomenon begins. Lifestyle inflation doesn't just creep in. It kicks down the front door. The moment that direct deposit increases, an invisible hand adjusts your baseline for what is acceptable. Suddenly, the functional Japanese sedan you drove in your 20s feels embarrassing to park in the executive lot. You convince yourself you deserve the European upgrade. The apartment that kept you sheltered is now too small for hosting, so you sign a mortgage for a property that requires 2 incomes just to cover the taxes. You aren't buying a better quality of life. You are buying the expensive uniforms required to play the role of a successful adult in your specific age bracket. Let's look at the brutal math of the salary mirage. You get a $10,000 raise. After taxes, maybe that is $600 extra a month. But your new car payment is $700. Your new social obligations drain another $400. You got a raise. You are working longer hours with infinitely more stress, and yet your actual cash flow is deeply negative. You are bleeding capital faster than when you were at the bottom of the ladder. This is why the high earner demographic is secretly the most panicked demographic. They are making $150,000 a year, but they have $50,000 in student loans, an $80,000 car note, and a massive mortgage. Their true net worth isn't growing. It is shrinking under the weight of debt servicing. They are trapped in a golden hamster wheel. If they miss exactly 2 paychecks, the entire luxury illusion collapses. Age and income have become a lethal combination. The older you get, the more money you make. But because of the timeline deception, the heavier the liabilities you are explicitly expected to carry. You are upgrading your prison cell, adding velvet curtains and a softer mattress, but the door is still locked from the outside. You look at the balance in your checking account the day before payday, and it is a barren wasteland. You wonder how it is mathematically possible to make so much money and retain absolutely none of it. You aren't broken. You are functioning exactly as the consumer economy designed you to function. A high-income earner with 0 retained wealth is the perfect obedient citizen. You are too dependent on your salary to ever rebel, and too exhausted by your debt to plan an escape. And if you think these earners are hiding a secret stash of cash, wait until you see the undeniable numbers. Because when we finally rip the curtain back on the average net worth, you ask the question that brought you here: where do you actually stand financially for your age? It is time to answer it. Not with the motivational fluff from a daytime talk show, but with the cold, unforgiving autopsy of the American middle class. To find out where you truly rank, we have to throw out the average net worth statistics immediately. Averages are a mathematical lie designed to make the economy look healthy. If a billionaire walks into a crowded room of broke people, the average net worth of that room skyrockets into the millions. To see reality, we must look at the median, the exact middle of the pack, the true reflection of the herd. Here are the numbers. If you are under 35 years old, the median net worth in America is roughly $39,000. Between 35 and 44, that median number climbs to roughly and $35,000. Between 45 and 54, it sits around 247,000. At first glance, you might look at your portfolio and breathe a sigh of relief. You might think you are keeping pace, but you are looking at a statistical mirage. This is the liquidity trap. Total net worth is a vanity metric. It includes the artificially inflated equity in a primary residence, which you cannot buy groceries with. It includes the balance of your retirement accounts, locked behind a massive wall of government tax penalties and age restrictions. It is paper wealth that you cannot use to defend yourself today. When we strip away the illiquid assets, the terrifying truth emerges. We must look at liquid net worth, the actual hard cash you can access tomorrow morning if the corporate machine unexpectedly spits you out. When you look at the median liquid savings of Americans across these age brackets, the grand illusion of the middle class shatters entirely. The median American in their 30s and 40s possesses less than $8,000 in accessible cash reserves. That is the true state of your peers. They are house rich and desperately cash poor. They are paper millionaires and functional paupers. They are literally one unexpected medical diagnosis or one prolonged corporate restructuring away from complete, irreversible financial insolvency. They have built an entire life on the assumption that nothing will ever go wrong, financing their present with the assumed stability of their future. So, where do you actually stand? Here is the absolute, unvarnished truth. If you are 35 years old, carrying zero consumer debt, and you have $10,000 in a savings account that you can access without asking for permission, you are financially stronger than the overwhelming majority. The executive with the financed luxury SUV and the heavily leveraged $500,000 mortgage, he is mathematically weaker than the 25-year-old, renting a modest studio apartment with zero debt and a positive monthly cash flow. Net worth without liquidity is just a vanity plate on a car speeding toward a cliff. You are panicking because you are comparing your behind-the-scenes reality to everyone else's highlight reel. You are measuring your worth against a timeline designed to keep you broke. It is time to step off the track. It is time to stop playing a rigged game, where the only prize is a heavier set of chains. To actually win, you have to embrace the ultimate taboo in modern society. You have to be completely willing to look like a massive failure to people you don't even like. The true architects of wealth do not broadcast their coordinates. They operate in the shadows. They practice stealth wealth. They drive unwashed, 8-year-old sedans. They wear unbranded cotton shirts. They live in average neighborhoods that don't impress anyone at a dinner party. And while the guy down the hall is sweating over his credit limit and praying for a bonus just to cover his property taxes, the stealth wealth operator is sleeping soundly. He owns his time. He owns his autonomy. If his company decides to restructure tomorrow and hand him a cardboard box, he doesn't panic. He smiles. Because he has 3 years of living expenses sitting quietly in a high-yield account and a portfolio of assets generating dividends. He traded the illusion of status for the undeniable reality of leverage. Here is a truth they will never teach you. The louder the lifestyle, the closer the collapse. True financial sovereignty requires a radical acceptance of social irrelevance. You must become a ghost in the consumer machine. You must stop buying overpriced things to validate your existence to strangers who are secretly drowning in the exact same ocean. You have a choice to make today. You can keep letting a fabricated calendar dictate your spending habits. You can keep chasing artificial milestones that were invented by marketers to sell you 30-year loans. You can keep desperately trying to prove that you belong in that specific age bracket, smiling through the quiet panic, holding your breath underwater with the rest of the herd. Phase 5. The Ghost Protocol. The exit from the rat race isn't a magical lottery ticket. It is a slow, methodical, and aggressively boring process of reclaiming your capital. It starts with liquidating your ego. Sell the luxury vehicle that is eating your future. Buy a depreciated piece of metal that simply moves you from point A to point B. Move out of the zip code that requires 2 incomes just to maintain the facade. Stop treating your credit limit like a salary extension. The system wants you exhausted, stressed, and constantly upgrading your cage. It demands that your lifestyle expands perfectly in tandem with your paycheck. You have to break that specific gear in the machine. You are 35, or you are 25, or 50. The number on your birth certificate is completely irrelevant to your financial salvation. What matters is the liquid cash fortifying your walls and the absolute refusal to let the economy drain it out through the tax of vanity. Let your co-workers whisper about your downgraded lifestyle. Let your family think you hit a rough patch because you stopped booking expensive vacations. Their opinions do not pay your compound interest, and their fleeting validation will never buy back your stolen time. When you finally realize that the age milestones are a complete fabrication, the panic vanishes. You are no longer behind schedule because you are no longer running on their track. You are building an empire in the dark. If you want to keep competing in the Misery Olympics, close this video and go finance another watch. But if you are ready to disappear from the radar and build something real, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and if you made it to the very end, drop a comment saying Cashflow Ghost. The algorithms won't understand it. The herd will just scroll past it. But I will know you are awake. My name is Daniel Rath, and I will see you outside the maze.